It's not that new bikes are unaffordable, it's just that salvage projects offer way more bang for your buck. Our host snagged this 2010 Kawasaki ZX-6R at a salvage auction for the scrap metal price of $1,300. After strapping it to the rack on the back of his car, he began the journey home. He arrived back at the workshop late at night and immediately got the bike inside. As you can see, the entire front end of this Kawasaki ZX-6R is almost completely totaled. The details of the damage make it clear that the crash must have been brutal. At a rough glance, it looks like nearly 80% of the bike is damaged. To get a clear picture of the bike's condition, he pushed it outside to give it a thorough cleaning. After a good wash, all the grime was gone, revealing a scraped-up swing arm and a missing lower fairing. The gearshift lever was bent from the impact, and the cooling system was in bad shape. He also noticed the front wheel was extremely close to the exhaust headers, but he couldn't tell what the problem was yet. He'd have to investigate that later. On the other side, the coolant reservoir was shattered in the crash. The front ram air intake was even worse, completely useless. Next, he checked the engine cover, which had a huge hole cracked in it. The subframe, seats, and exhaust system were also damaged. Then he discovered a major problem. The bike had almost no oil in it. This discovery gave him a massive headache. He had no idea how long the previous owner had ridden it without oil. He also didn't want to give up on the original fuel tank, but he knew restoring it would be a huge challenge. But the most important task right now was to see if the engine would even start. For safety, he needed to open up the side engine cover first. As he was about to start the disassembly, he found another disaster. The frame itself had a massive crack in it. This was another heavy blow. But he didn't hesitate. He quickly removed the damaged side cover, and as you can see, checking inside was the right call. He found a small piece of metal shrapnel inside, which made his heart sink. He immediately drained the remaining oil, hoping to flush out any other metal fragments. While the oil was draining, he started removing the exhaust system and the front radiator. He was careful not to damage any of the wiring or hoses. The removed radiator was clearly destroyed in the crash. With those parts off, he could remove the oil pan to get a better look for any more metal debris inside. Sure enough, there were more foreign objects in the pan. He cleaned it thoroughly before reinstalling it and also put in a new oil filter. Since he didn't have a replacement side cover yet, he had to temporarily reuse the damaged one. With those parts back on, it was time to add fresh oil. Next, he removed the bike's damaged ignition switch and hot-wired it to attempt a start. He connected the instrument cluster, and with the flick of a switch, the engine roared to life on the first try. A huge wave of relief washed over him. The open headers were incredibly loud, so he temporarily reinstalled the old exhaust before trying again. As he revved the engine, the pipes let out a healthy roar. You can see the massive grin on his face. Getting a perfectly healthy engine for just $1,300 was an absolute steal. Now, the full teardown could begin to figure out exactly which parts needed to be replaced. Just the subframe alone consisted of a whole pile of components. Next came the fuel tank. Luckily, the airbox underneath was undamaged and perfectly preserved, which would save him a lot of money. He then prepped the wiring harness to get ready for engine removal. The original chain was heavily rusted and completely useless.
With the prep work done, it was time to remove the engine. He just had to remove the mounting bolts and the engine was free from the frame. Using his own strength, he lifted the frame off the engine. At this point, the Kawasaki ZX-6R was completely disassembled. The next morning, he drove his car to the front of the garage, mounted the ZX-6R frame onto the trailer rack, and took it to a friend's shop to have the cracked frame welded. Before welding, the cracked area had to be ground clean. After prepping the surface, the broken section was welded back together. To speed things up, as soon as the welding was done, he rushed it back to his workshop. The weld was incredibly strong. Now, he just needed to grind the weld bead smooth. This was a relatively simple step. After grinding it down, he immediately applied body filler. While the filler was curing, he sanded the rest of the frame to prep it for paint, as it had some minor scuffs from the crash. He also repaired some dents on other major components like the swing arm. Since the swing arm sheep makes it difficult to repair, he just sanded it down and used filler. The repair process was the same as the frame, so we'll skip the details. With the frame repair complete, he gave it another quick wash, and then it was time for primer. Before spraying the color coat, he masked off all the areas that didn't need paint. With the prep done, he began to spray. With each coat of black paint, the frame was transformed before our eyes. He applied a total of 3 coats. Who could imagine this was once the frame of a wrecked motorcycle? You have to admire his meticulous work. The next job was to clean all the grime off the engine. The old spark plugs were also replaced. Then, he could reunite the engine with the freshly painted frame. The installation was just the reverse of disassembly, so we'll skip the play-by-play. The new side cover he had ordered also arrived and was installed. Next up was the exhaust system, which just needed a good cleaning. After being polished, it looked brand new. He reinstalled it on the frame. A new batch of parts also arrived: hoses, wiring, and a brand new radiator. The top priority was to get all of these new parts installed. The fan from the original radiator was still good, so he transplanted it onto the new one. A great way to save a part from the trash. After installing the radiator, he connected the new coolant hoses, which were a massive visual upgrade over the old, aging ones. The rear mudguard was also installed. He then started removing the front sprocket. While the old one was still usable, he decided to change the sprocket sizes for better acceleration and an improved riding experience. He replaced the rear sprocket as well. And since the original chain was toast, he ordered a new one and cut it to the proper length. With that, the bike's entire drive system was brand new. The foot pegs and gear shifter he's installing now are a used set he found. He also tidied up all the messy wiring on the frame. The only thing that was still bothering him was the clearance between the front wheel and the exhaust headers. They were just too close. To figure out the problem, he tried adjusting the front fork height, but it didn't really change the distance. Stumped, he found a different set of front forks in his shop and swapped them on to see if it would help. The result was the same. The clearance didn't change. Finally, after searching online, he discovered that this is a known characteristic of the ZX-6R from the factory. A huge wave of relief washed over him. He swapped the original forks back on. This one issue had cost him nearly a week of headache. With that puzzle solved, he continued the build. He sourced a set of engine protection covers, which are designed to prevent the engine from being scratched in a crash. The original airbox was undamaged, so after a good cleaning, it was reinstalled with a new air filter.
Next came the most difficult part, the fuel tank repair. Before starting, he made sure there wasn't a single drop of fuel left inside and worked in a well-ventilated area. He first sanded the rusted areas and then started trying to pull out the massive dent. This was an incredibly time-consuming process. After half a day of getting nowhere, he came up with a clever idea. He rigged up an air fitting and used high pressure to pop the dent out from the inside. And as you can see, the trick worked perfectly. This brilliant idea brought a huge smile to his face. After fixing the tank, another package arrived. It was a set of new clutch and brake levers, which he installed easily. Another package contained a used ram air intake, which he also mounted on the frame. The brand new exhaust he ordered had also arrived. He had to remove the foot peg to make room for the installation. After the exhaust was secured, he reinstalled the foot peg. Sometime later, a used headlight assembly arrived at the shop. Finding this specific headlight took him a lot of effort. And then the final major component arrived. Inside the box was a full set of red bodywork. He said he got it from a fellow rider. It showed no signs of use, but being a few years old, the paint had lost some of its shine. Before installing the new bodywork, he rebuilt the entire brake line system. Then he could start assembling the fairings. To make the installation easier, he pre-assembled some of the pieces. Then it was like a jigsaw puzzle, fitting each piece onto the bike one by one. With the fairings on, he shifted his focus back to the fuel tank. It looks like it was repaired by cutting, reshaping, and re-welding. Now he needed to sand down the paint and use filler to smooth it out. We've seen the painting process before, so we'll skip the details. But before painting the tank, he had to test his repair. The method was simple: fill the tank with fuel, start the bike, and check for leaks. Thankfully, there were none. Now he could remove the tank again for its final paint. And for the color choice, I have no idea what he was thinking. He painted the fuel tank black. While the paint was drying, he didn't stop. He installed the windscreen and the side mirrors. Finally, the fuel tank went on. With the seat installed, the rebuild of this $1,300 2010 Kawasaki ZX-6R salvage bike was officially complete. He immediately filled up the tank and brought the bike out into his yard. Unfortunately, with snow covering the ground, it wasn't safe for a test ride, so all we get is a static display. So for the end of the video, let's just listen to the roar of this Kawasaki ZX-6R. The only real eyesore on the whole bike is the fuel tank, but everyone's taste is different, so it's not fair to judge too much. So what do you guys think of this build? Let us know in the comments.